Let's getting started, class. So here we have to start first year, chapter number 9, Kingdom Plantae, which is a part of botany. So without wasting any time, we're gonna have to start chapter number 9, Kingdom Plantae, which is a part of botany, which is being left, and now we're gonna have to make it on our online classes. So if I'm talking about a part, that what sort of organism we're gonna have to place in Kingdom Plantae. So in Kingdom Plantae class, we're gonna have to start a certain organism which is being multicellular, eukaryotic, and they are autotrophic. By they are being autotrophic in nature, you must have to know autotrophic. You must have to know that they are photosynthetic, and yes, if they are photosynthetic, they can prepare their own food by utilizing sunlight, and that's why they are autotroph. And one more point which you're gonna have to add in this: zygote develops into embryo. Regarding embryology and zygote, what is that zygote? When male and female gamete fuse together, forming a certain part that is called zygote, and zygote develops into the embryo, which is a developed form of zygote. So that is the thing which you're going to have to remember in order to write the complete definition of Kingdom Plantae. So that is an authentic definition of Kingdom Plantae, that they are multicellular, composed of many cells. They are eukaryotic. Means the nuclear membrane is present. They are autotroph, in which by which they are performing photosynthesis and prepare the food by means of utilizing sunlight. And then this zygote develops into an embryo. And yes, class, if I'm talking about a part for this, so that Kingdom Plantae would be divided into the two main parts. What you can say, if we being talk about a part for units of classification, so we have the first major unit, that is kingdom, and after that we have the division. So Kingdom Plantae basically divides into two division, and that's called, one is called bryophytes, as you have studied in this thing in your 9th class, bryophytes, and the second one that's referred to be as tracheophytes. On to the basic concept if I'm giving about for bryophytes and tracheophytes. Bryophytes, they are considered to be as the lower plant, and if I'm talking about for tracheophytes, they are considered to be as the higher plant. So let's talk about the thing which is being common in bryophytes and tracheophytes. That is a word which is called phytes. The word phytes meant to be as for plants, as the common word between bryophytes and tracheophytes. That is what plants. And if I'm talking about for bryo and tracheo. So I told you the basic thing to remember: bryophytes and tracheophytes. Bryophytes the lower plant, tracheophytes the higher plant. But according to the biology, the word bryo, it derived from a word bryon, and bryon meant to be as for moss. And what is moss? It is just like grasses. And what is grasses? They are a certain small mat-like structure. They are being fused together to form a mat-like structure. As you can see, grasses, they are not being higher, they are being very shorter in length. They don't have, the bryophyte does not have proper roots. Instead of root, it have rhizoids, which you call the root hairs. And if I'm talking about for stem and leaf, so class, it have pseudostem. Pseudo, as you know about what is meant to be a pseudo, the word pseudo meant to be as for false. So in that the stem and leaf would be highly fused. The stem and leaf would be highly fused. So that is the thing which we have in bryophytes. And if I'm talking about a part for tracheophytes, now what is tracheo? Class, as I told you that the word tracheophyte, it referred to be as for the higher plant. But what is actually, by the way, by the word tracheo meant to be as a word, the word tracheo meant to be as a word that's called tracheids. And now where does the tracheids, what is tracheids actually, by the way? That is the reference I am giving you, that you will study that part in chapter number 14. The tracheids are the certain elongated tube-like structure which is responsible for conducting the water. So in order to conducting the water, these pipelines are not present in the lower plants, which I make for bryophyte. That what is bryophyte actually? So you have to remember that it is a lower plant. And if I'm talking about for tracheophytes, so the tracheophytes, they are the higher plants. Why the tracheophytes are referred to be the higher plant? Because it contains the tracheids. And what is tracheids actually, by the way? It is the elongated tubes responsible for conducting water, for conducting mechanism. So this conducting mechanism would not be present into the lower plants. So this conducting mechanism would present into the tracheids. So that's why we call tracheids that it contain vascular bundle. And you know very well that what does it mean, vascular bundle? That vascular bundle, it consists of xylem and phloem. And now what is xylem, what is phloem? So remember that what is xylem actually, by the way? Xylem, you know very well that it conducts water, and phloem, it conducts food. As you can say, water and minerals and food and other nutrients would be transported by means of phloem, and xylem is responsible for conducting water and minerals. Now if I'm talking about for tracheophytes, yes, actually they are the higher plants. It have prominent root, it have stem, and top leaf, proper leaf. So if I'm talking about for tracheophytes, the largest tracheophytes which is being reported, it's referred to be as California redwood tree, which approx length about 100 meter. So that is somewhat actually for a word for tracheophytes. And if I'm talking about for classification, so yes, the classification of bryophytes and tracheophytes, I'm gonna have to rub that whole part. So I'm gonna make a certain short overview for the thing which we have done. So we are studying first year chapter number 9, Kingdom Plantae, the part of the botany. In Kingdom Plantae, we studied about for multicellular, eukaryotic, autotrophic organism, which is being photosynthetic in nature. They prepare the food by means of utilizing sunlight, and in this we have zygote which develops into embryo. And yes class, if I'm talking about for bryophytes and tracheophytes, these are the two divisions of Kingdom Plantae. And if I'm talking about for bryophyte, the word bryo derived from a word moss, and moss meant to be as grass, and I make it lower plant. And tracheophytes for conducting tracheids, it referred to be the higher plant, because tracheids are always present into the higher plant which have the proper root, stem and leaves. And yes, if I'm talking about for bryophyte, it have the rhizoids which are referred to be as the root hairs. So that is the thing which you have to remember. And it have the pseudostem. Pseudo means you always have to know pseudo means false, and a pseudostem which meant to be as that it have the highly fused stem and leaf which is being highly fused. So that is the point which you're gonna have to remember about for Kingdom Plantae. And now if I'm talking about for its classification, so I just have to make the classification of that as well. So let's make the classification, which is being a real important topic for short classification of Kingdom Plantae. So eventually the Kingdom Plantae would be divided into the two parts, and what are they? Number one, you know very well, that is bryophytes, and the second one you know very well, that is tracheophytes. So they're gonna ask you a certain short question to classify kingdom Plantae, and it's being a very quick topic and a very short topic to make the answer of the short question and eventually get the 2 marks. And if I'm talking about for bryophyte, so I'm not detailing it that part, I just have to only classify the things. And if I'm gonna have to classify the things, the 3 things which we're gonna have to make for bryophytes, that is hepatica, musky, and anthoceros, you can say. And if I'm talking about for hepatica, so word hepat, whenever class you found a word hepat, it meant to be as for liver, so it referred to be as liverworts. Musky, it referred to be as for mosses, and anthoceros, and this they are referred to be as hornworts. So what are the organisms we're gonna have to place in hepatica, musky, and anthoceros? So class in hepatica, we possibly make the organism referred to be as Markentia, which you will make for practical as well. And about for musky, you include the organism for Funaria. And anthoceros, you can make the organism that's called Anthocerata. And about for tracheophytes, so in tracheophytes we have been further divided into the 5 things. Into the tracheophytes, you're gonna have to classify the 5 things. And what are they? Number 1, if I'm talking about a part that is being very primitive organism, we have the primitive class that is of tracheophyte, that is Psilopsida. And now what next? We have the next class, that is Sphenopsida, or what you can say, make the Lycopsida, Lycopsida, Pteropsida, and the very important thing which you're gonna have to make, or which you're gonna have to write, that is Spermopsida. So that is the 5 classes we have in the tracheophyte: Psilopsids, the P would be silent, Sphenopsida, Lycopsida, Pteropsida, and Spermopsida. And if I'm talking about a part for Psilopsids, so in Psilopsida we include the organism, we include the very primitive organism which is being really known about for Psilopsida, that is Rhinia, which is a fossil organism. And you can include Psilotum and Massipteris. It's Massipteris. You can find it out the spelling, actual spelling on your book as well. If I'm talking about for Sphenopsida, in Sphenopsida you include the organism that's called horsetail. In Lycopsida you include the club mosses, and in Pteropsida you included fern. Whereas if I'm talking about for Spermopsida class, Spermopsida is very important, or it's a very major class for tracheophytes, which we're gonna have to study or make for detail. But over here for classification, I just have to make a very quick overview for Spermopsida. Whenever in botany you found a word sperm, it meant to be as for seed, and eventually that Spermopsida would be further divided into the 2 parts, and they are called what? You know very well that was being divided into the 2 parts. One is called gymnosperm and another one is called angiosperm. So what is gymnosperm and angiosperm? For a very quick and a short overview, sperm, you know very well that sperm meant to be as for seed. Sperm meant to be as for seed, and the word gymno means naked, uncovered. Angio basically it's a word in botany for vessel, but I over here make the word as covered. So one thing, gymnosperm, it's referred to be as naked seed, and angiosperm is covered seed. Naked seed, covered seed, what does it mean? That gymnosperm, it having seed without seed coat. And if I'm talking about for angiosperm, it having seed with seed coat. One more point if I'm gonna have to take about for gymnosperm, it is a non-flowering plant, and angiosperm, it is a flowering plant, but that is a classification you're gonna have to make till that, and that's all for classification.